Big gray beard? Check. Huge axe? Check. Shield made out of a scale from a huge dragon? Close enough. Coma is a creature that lives in the void, a great serpent capable of eating entire realms, so massive that no human has ever harmed it until Fynn showed it his big old blade. The elves have nightmares of humans, the humans have nightmares of Coma, and Coma has nightmares of Fynn. So get ready to meet this grizzled green man with poison for blood, because he's more than ready to meet your enemies. Welcome to the Uncommon Commander. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Uncommon Commander. My name is Ryan, and I'll be your host. Today I'm presenting you a Pauper EDH deck built around the Uncommon Commander Fynn the Fangbearer. Fynn is a 1/3 legendary human warrior with keyword ability Deathtouch, and whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. This means that our Deathtouch creatures will hand out 2 poison counters whenever they hit, but it also means that if we can give an Infect creature Deathtouch, it'll effectively deal Infect twice when it hits an opponent. Once for its normal Infect damage, and again for 2 poison counters when Fynn triggers from its Deathtouch. If we were playing normal EDH, that's what we'd be building around, but there isn't really much support for it in Pauper. That said, we'll be sure to include what little support for it that there is. We're also going to ramp like crazy. Not because we need all the mana, but instead because we're going to utilize our excess lands for some added value, and also because it's nice to thin our deck out by removing lands from it. There isn't all that much true card draw in green for common rarity level, so it'll be necessary to get decent top decks. We're going to start by mentioning ones that don't actually ramp us. Those are Crop Rotation, Armillary Sphere, Yevmaya Elder, and Krosan Tusker. Notably, Yevmaya Elder and Krosan Tusker do something very close to cantripping. Actual ramp comes in the form of Search for Tomorrow, Sakura Tribe Elder, Beneath the Sands, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Far Wanderings, Grow from the Ashes, Harrow, Spring Bloom Druid, and Bonder's Ornament, which doubles as expensive card draw. You'll notice that we're running a lot of 3 mana ramp here. That is intentional, as Fynn costs 2 mana to cast and should usually be cast on turn 2. We don't want the timing of our ramp spells to be in conflict with our commander's timing, and we're really cool with ramping on turn 3 anyway, especially when a lot of those ramp spells find more than one land. The obvious way to go with this deck is Deathtouch. Normally I try not to be super obvious with my game plan, but there's just no hiding it here. We care way too much about Deathtouch to not go deep into it. We have 8 creatures that unconditionally have Deathtouch. Those are Sedge Scorpion, Tejuru Nightblade, Ambush Viper, which can also be a delightful surprise blocker, Deadly Recluse, Thorn-Wheeled Archer, Daggerback Basilisk, Kessig Recluse, and Farika's Disciple. We also have some conditional versions of Deathtouch as well. Those are Bitterblade Warrior, Deathhood Cobra, and Narnam Cobra. The first of those requires you to exert it when it attacks to gain Deathtouch. The other 2 gain Deathtouch as an activated ability. And since those Deathtouch creatures are pseudo-Infect creatures, if Fynn is on the table, and they connect with an opponent's face, let's also include some true Infect creatures. For that we've got Rotwolf, Viridian Betrayers, whose Infect is actually conditional on an opponent already having poison counters, Blight Widow, and Telegilad Fallen. We have some protection cards here. 2 of them are in place to protect Fynn, and those are Village Elder and Fortitude. We also have 2 cards here to protect ourselves. Those are Quirion Ranger and Whiteout. The Ranger will protect you by untapping a Deathtouch creature. Whiteout will bring all the flyers down to your Deathtoucher's level, so they'll be able to be blocked. All of these use our force as a resource, so it's a good thing we're ramping hard. We also have a protection card that gives evasion. That card is Whisper Silk Cloak, which will give the creature it's equipped to Shroud and Unblockable. For additional ability to smack opponents in the face with poison counters, we have Talons of Wildwood, Wildheart Invoker, and Crashing Drawbridge. Something to note, a creature with both Deathtouch and Trample needs to only deal 1 damage to the creature that's blocking it, because that 1 damage is considered lethal. All additional damage will hit your opponent in the face, so if a 0/4 wall blocks a 2/2 Deathtouch creature that has Trample, you'll hit the wall for 1, and your opponent for 1, and then Fynn will give them 2 poison counters. Thanks, Fynn. I've also included a handful of cards that make our Deathtouch creatures extra dangerous. To give us the ability to both attack and defend, we have the 0 mana equipments, Accorder's Shield and Cathar's Shield. Both cost 3 to equip. Also giving us vigilance is the recently downshifted rarity, Haunted Cloak. It doesn't just give vigilance, but also trample and haste. Bladed Pinions is yet another equipment. This one is giving us flying and first strike. And finally, we have an enchantment that turns our Deathtouch creatures into fantastic blockers. That's Spider Silk Armor, and it gives creatures we control +0/+1 and reach. Green is very light on card draw at the common level, which is why we need to ramp so hard. Gotta use our strengths in a way that helps cover up our weaknesses, you know? What we do have is the 1 mana aura, Bequeathal, which will let you draw 2 cards when a creature that it's enchanting dies. This can be useful to cast on your own creatures if you want to create an incentive for an opponent to not kill it, or on an opponent's creature if you want to cause them to not attack with it. We also have Citanal Woodreaders, Snake Umbra, which doubles as a protection spell, Arcane Spyglass, which lets us utilize our extra lands as a resource, and Pygmy Kavu, which is conditional on an opponent playing black, but we're fairly desperate and most tables have black. To help cover up for our card draw woes, we are running some recursion as well. For recurring creatures, we have Evolution Charm, which has some other useful modes as well. Recurring either a creature or a land, we have Grapple with the Past and Pulse of Marasa. And for recurring absolutely anything is the beautifully illustrated Elven Cache. I won't lie, there may be a better card for this slot, but dang it, I am in love with Rebecca Gay's art. And not just this card, I'm talking about all of her art. It is fantastic. I should make a Rebecca Gay deck. Most of our removal spells are going to be targeting non-creature things, since Deathtouch is so good at keeping the creatures in check. These are Caustic Caterpillar, Nature's Charm, and since we're trying to win through poison counters, we don't really care so much about the life gain on that. Return to Nature, Wilt, Natural Reclamation, and 1 Volley Acid Moss. I think I said that right. Anyway, that's a land removal spell that also ramps you. You may also notice that some of these have a small degree of card advantage built in. It's not a bad idea to get creative with that type of thing in Pauper. We also have 1 semi-removal spell that targets a creature. That card is Cartouche of Strength. It's mainly actually here to give one of our creatures trample, but it does allow you to have that creature fight another target creature. Since our creature probably has Deathtouch, it becomes kind of a quasi-removal spell. Enough so for me to list it here anyway. And we're on to lands. A big thing we've focused on is thinning our deck, so let's continue with that. For it, we have Panoramas, Bant, Jund, and Naya. We also have Ash Barrens and Warp Landscape to help with it. And with us finding so many lands pulling them out of our deck, we probably will reach a point where we won't want more of them, so we're including the cycling lands as well. Desert of the Indomitable, Slippery Karst, and Tranquil Thicket. And then we also probably won't mind having a land we can sacrifice here or there for some benefit. Those will be Cave of Temptation and Haunted Fengraf. Cave of Temptation buffs a creature when sacrificed, and we also have a couple other lands that do some buffing. Those are Opal Palace and Forge of Heroes. Finally, we're running all snow lands for our basics, thanks to the card Whiteout. That'll be 22 snow-covered forests to complete a land base of 34 cards. Congratulations, you've made it through almost the entire deck tech, including all the boring parts. And now you're into the last segment, in which I count down a list of cards from 5 to 1. On most channels, these types of lists are about the highest powered cards, or maybe the most interesting cards, or the best budget cards. On this channel, though, I've come up with an excellent alternative involving a hat and pieces of paper. Welcome, you poisonous vipers, to the final countdown! We're getting right into it with number 5. This card is 1 mana common and an enchantment aura, so you know it's gotta be bad, right? Wrong! It's Rancor, and it's a freaking all-star. Thanks to the magic of Trample plus Deathtouch, with a touch of self-recursion and a 2-power buff, Rancor gives our Deathtouch creatures something nearing the equivalent of an ability that reads, pay 1 green mana. This creature kills whatever idiot creature decided to block it and still deals 2 infect damage to whoever's hiding behind it. And if giving 1 Deathtouch creature trample is a good idea, what about giving all of them trample? At number 4, we're doing just that. Nylea's Forerunner is a 5/3 trample enchantment creature, Beast, that gives all your other creatures trample as well. It costs 2 cents and gives you 5 power and a trample anthem. What a value! And you know, if there is any one thing I would change about this deck, it would be to add more trample into it. Deathtouch and trample are insane together. If there's a benefit to being green instead of black for Deathtouch, that's it. Commander Legends was pretty good to Pauper players in my opinion, and one of the cards I absolutely loved is our number 3 card today. That card's name is Staunch Throne Guard, and the reason it's here is to give you the Monarchy. This deck is fairly starved for card draw, so even conditional card draw like the Monarchy can be important. It also helps that we have the ability to hide the Monarchy behind a bunch of Deathtouch creatures. If someone wants to get crowned, they're going to have to pay to take it from you. Our number 2 card is our only repeatable recursion in this deck. It's the 1 mana 1/1 creature known as Groundskeeper, and he has the ability to pay 1 and a green to return a target basic land from your graveyard to your hand. On its own, this looks fairly, though not extremely useful. But when you combine it with Whiteout or Village Elder, your opponents will find you suddenly very difficult to attack. And we're down to number 1. Or up to number 1? I'm never really sure how to use that phrase in countdown lists. In any case, number 1 was spoiled right at the beginning of this video. You didn't forget some random throwaway line that I said like 15 minutes ago, did you? Well, let me remind you. At number 1, we have 3 cards that share a mechanic. The ability to give a creature Deathtouch. Those are Nightshade Peddler, Lace with Moonglove, and Serpent's Gift. With the sheer amount of Deathtouch creatures we already have, these may seem a little bit like overkill, but when you swing Tel'Gilad Fallen at someone who only controls creatures they intend to keep and are fairly safe at only 5 poison counters, you're going to find yourself very happy to cast Lace with Moonglove at instant speed. Say goodbye to your opponent and their friendship. Alright, you poison pauper people eaters, I'd like to take this moment to thank you for watching this episode of The Uncommon Commander and welcome you to click the like and subscribe buttons located on your screen just below this video. And if you're already a subscriber, thanks for sticking with me this far. I hope you've enjoyed this pauper deck, and I'll try to make a few more of them in the future as I find uncommon rarity cards that speak to my imagination. I'm considering making a Patreon for this channel, and I'm looking into ideas for rewards and donator tiers for those who become my patrons. I'm open to suggestions, so feel free to shout them out in the comments or email them at me at theuncommoncommander@gmail.com if you're feeling shy. There's no shame in being shy. I've been fairly shy most of my life. Anyway, I'm going to try getting this Patreon up and running by the time I hit 500 subscribers, so let me know your thoughts before then. Well, on that thought, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I'll catch you next time. See you later, my uncommon friends.